Hello. What's going on, everybody? What's happening? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. Today's topic, I am going to be speaking on Dinah Watts Pace. So Dinah Watts Pace was an educator, and also she founded many black schools in Covington, Georgia. And she also founded an orphanage called Covington Colored Children. Okay. So she herself was a former slave at one point. However, she had the courage to be able to open up schools for a lot of young African American children, and she also know that there was a amount of kids who were orphans and who were homeless. They had nowhere to go, so she opened up a facility for them. So I'm continuing to kick it off with Women History Month, okay, where we commemorate the sisters who have done phenomenal work in the community, who have supported the community, who have done a lot of things. And also we got to look at the good, the bad, the ugly in our history as well. We got to look at different organization, social group, social movement, events that has taken place, particularly with black women. All right. So anyways, peace to you, bro Jerome. Shout out to bro Jerome. So I want to go ahead and get started sharing the information with you guys. So no holdups. All right. So let's go ahead. Let's look at the information here, shall we? Now, right here, this is a picture of Dinah Watts Pace. Okay, this is her. A beautiful black sister. All right, so it said that she was an American educator who founded black schools in Covington, Georgia, and later founded the Covington Colored Children Orphanage, right? Which she ran for over 40 years. And she was raised as a slave. All right. She received her diploma in education from Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta University, and gained a nationwide reputation for her charitable work in orphans. So she was born as a slave on January the 9th, 1853, near Athens, Clark County, Georgia, to Emily and Sterling Watts as the property of the Alexander family. By the time she was 8 years old, Mrs. Alexander headed the household and was running a boarding house with around 12 slaves. Watts and her siblings tried their best to learn as they were able. When the Civil War ended, Watts located to Atlanta and lived in Summer Hill neighborhood, which is still around today. Summer Hill is still around, which at the time was the center of Black society. While still a child, she was one of the founders of the Sunday School for Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, which would later become the Reed Street Baptist Church and currently is known as the Paradise Missionary Baptist Church. After 5 years of attending Sunday schools, Watts entered Atlanta University and graduated in 1883. All right, then it says after she had graduated right from the university, so in 1883, she went to Covington, Georgia, and for what was to be a short few months of teaching, recognizing the need for education in that part of the state, she founded a school and began teaching. In 1884, she took in 2 young orphans, and soon other abandoned children followed. That same year, she met a whittler, Jane Pace, a local blacksmith and coffin maker. After his assurance that he would allow her to continue her work, the two were married. In 1886, Pace resigned her teaching post to devote her time to raising funds for her orphans. She traveled the state trying to secure funds. In 1889, she incorporated the Covington Colored Orphans Home with the goal of providing care, education, and training for orphans and or abandoned children who had no one to care for them. Perhaps her most steadfast benefactor was her brother, Lewis Watts, a Pullman porter. He sent her portions of his money to support her educational endeavors and helped her not only pay rent on the house she lived in, but helped her acquire the lot to build her orphanage on, as well as construction 4 buildings to house her 100 students. A sorority from Wesley College took on the orphanage as a project and sent boxes of food and clothes. Peace to Tan. Shout out to Tan. Peace. So basically, just to sum it up before I continue to read on, she went from being a teacher to open up an orphanage. Okay. And what inspired her to do so was because her mother she had a boarding house for those who were slaves. Okay. And she let them stay there. So that inspired her to open up homes for people who were, or children who were orphan, mean that both of their parents are deceased or they didn't have their parents around at all. And not only that, they were abandoned. So she opened up doors for them and began to educate. Now, as you can see, the woman is always represented as the primary educator. Okay. So it's women who were very big on education. I mean, men were too, but women made it very much more possible. They stayed in the education field a lot because the goal is be able to teach the children. And most of the time, women are naturally attached to kids more than men are. So with that being said, women have more ability to be able to teach the children, rear them up, and be able to give them some type of nurturing. All right. So that's why you see so many women in educational field, because most of the time women are primary teachers of kids and they have a natural connection with kids and whatnot. Hey, Candy, how you doing? It's been a minute. All right. So Watts spoke widely at events to raise funds for her students, such as participating in events with W.E.B. Du Bois and the Conference on Problems of Negro City Life held at Atlanta University, among others. Her work was widely covered in the Black press nationwide, and articles appeared in the Crisis about the orphanage. With $1,000 seed money from Sarah M. Reed of Manchester, Vermont, Pace began constructing the Reed Home and School, a 2.5-story, 10-room facility. Eventually, Pace employed 3 Atlanta University graduates, including her niece, Anne May Watts, to work at the school. Then in 1916, a benefactor from Boston donated funds to create the Annie Woods Memorial Hall as a dormitory for boys. Though the following year, her girls' dormitory was damaged by fire, soon after the fire, Jane Pace died. So Pace continued to operate the school until her death, but struggled as she aged to keep it running without her fundraising. Her niece, Annie Mae Watts, took over the school and ran it for 2 more years after Watts died, but it was then closed. The county later burned the buildings on the property, and all that is left there is a green space and cemetery. A plaque at the Washington Street Community Center recognized the importance of Pace and her school to Newton County history. So she unfortunately passed away on January the 25th, 1933 at the Douglas Infirmary in Atlanta as a result of burns sustained in an accidental fire on January 21st, 1933 at her home in Covington. She was buried at Southview Cemetery in Atlanta. After her funeral service was held at the Reed Street Baptist Church, which she helped establish, she came to be known as the mother of the community for her work as a social activist and businesswoman. But perhaps her biggest legacy was the education she provided for more than 700 students who passed through her school. All right. So as you can see, these are the references at the bottom of the page. Okay. All right. So I have a few reading materials available. Let's check it out. All right, so right here, this come from a book called From Friendly Visitors to Professional Social Worker, The Atlanta Story. And it comes out of Falun, right? So let me start where it says right here it says in Georgia, the Augusta Orphan Asylum, later named the Tuttle Newton Home, was chartered in 1852 in that city, and the Bibb County Widows and Orphan Home outside of Macon was chartered in 1856 and founded as private benevolent enterprise, and were also among the first known effort to provide institutional care of white children across the state of Georgia. Shortly following the Civil War in 1867, the North Georgia Conference of the Methodist Episcopal Church South established the Methodist Children Orphan Home in Decatur. Other 19th century institutional facilities for children developed across the state, such as the Appleton Orphan Home, established in 1870 in Macon, the Baptist Orphans Home, established in 1888 in Hateville, and the Hebrew Orphan Home, established in 1889 in Atlanta. These efforts addressed only the needs of vulnerable white children prior to 20th century. Notwithstanding, the South was plagued with a vast range of problems after the Civil War, while Northern Republicans dominated the political landscape, owing to the deadlock election of 1876. Rutherford Hayes was elected president with Southern support after Northerners agreed to reduce and curtail Reconstruction Initiative. So, thus, the compromise essentially made the Negro matter regional rather than national, and arguably blacks were organized out of national politics. Even with the migration of former slaves to urban areas in the South and North in 1900, only 10% of blacks lived in the North or West, making them largely a Southern constituency. However, a major migration to the north was beginning in the 1916 to 1920 time frame and is popularly referred to as the Great Migration. Without assistance of the progressive and the oppressive structure of Jim Crow, the Black Codes, and the Plessy versus Ferguson 1896 Supreme Court decision ruling of separate but equal, which codified racism, the plight of black was bleak and overwhelming. Structural change for social, political, and economic equality will continue to be a struggle. Despite the lack of availability, training, and reliance on volunteers and friendly visitors, professional service that target the needs of African Americans began to develop in several of the southern states. Most notably, Dinah Watts Pace, a former slave and graduate of Atlanta University, began teaching school in 1883 in Covington, where she extended her work by providing social service education and assistance to the local community. After accepting the care and maintenance of two orphan girls in 1884, she recognized that there were other abandoned black children. Press reports suggest that she cared for as many as five in her private home for several years. As humble as these efforts may seem, they represent the state's first known attempt to provide institutional care for dependent and indigent black children. By 1890, she filled an application to establish the Covington Colored Orphan Home to care for and properly educate and train need colored children who are orphans or have neither relatives nor friends to provide for them. And it says by her death in 1933, the facility had grown to include a school and had provide care over 700 boys and girls and enjoyed the benevolent support of the community and donors. In meantime, two orphanages emerged to serve needful black children, Leonard Street homes. Both were organized by local friendly visitors or volunteer Mrs. Okay, I don't know if you guys got the rest of that I was reading on, but what started off as something that was supposed to be about education became the focus of creating a shelter for homeless children. So basically, at that time, as I was reading the article, if you guys caught on to it, um, but my service kind of went down, so I apologize about that. At one point in time, they did not create what we know today as group homes and foster homes. Okay, now today they call foster home. They're not called orphanage anymore or a homes for abandoned children. They call them foster homes and group homes. But one point in time, they didn't have group homes for African American kids. The group homes was created for Caucasian children. So someone like Dinah Watts Pace stepped up and decided that she will make her home available to these kids. And then she was able to raise some money up and get a facility to house many children. And of course, the facility that she once opened up is no longer around because she didn't have the money to keep it up. Then her niece tried to keep it going, but they had to close it down. So what people don't understand is when you don't get enough funding from the city, you don't get enough taxpayer dollar to keep a place like the rehabilitation centers and mental institution and homeless shelters around, then they eventually close it down. They'll close it because there's no money coming in. So those places are funded by the states. And when the state's not giving out enough fund to these places, they'll be out of operation. They just won't be in business anymore. Now I'm gonna tell you, the state of Atlanta as today, there's still a lot of homeless crisis out here. It really is. It's a lot of homeless crisis. It's a lot of people that's living on the street. There's not enough homeless shelters. And so the people that you mainly see homeless most of the time is a strong population of African Americans. And you have other groups, like you have some that are Caucasian, some that are Asian and other backgrounds or whatnot. But for the most part, you will see a lot of African Americans. They are homeless today in the streets of Atlanta. If you go to downtown, if you ever visit downtown Atlanta, and you go into the underground area, you see a lot of homeless people. And then those in that group, right, are those who are military veterans. That's the sad part about it. So imagine you being a military veteran, you done served your country. You don't get a GI Bill, you don't get no type of help, and you come home just to be homeless. Yeah. So I also want to say this. While we sitting up here arguing about what is Atlanta, what is not Atlanta, and all that shit, and what zone we repping and all that, the question is, how many of us know our city council? A lot of us don't even know our city council. That's the sad part, for one. And two, there's a lot of gentrification going on within these zones that we're talking about, within these metro cities. Okay. So we talk about how we rep this and how we rep that, but we don't even know our city council. Half of us don't. And we don't even try to take the necessary action to the city hall to address the current issues, like whether it be mold, whether it be lead poisoning, whether it be potholes or anything like that. We don't even take the time out collectively to do so. There are those of us that do, but there's the rest of us that don't. But we can talk about what zone we from and what is Atlanta, what ain't Atlanta, this, that, and other, but you don't even know who to reach out to. So what good is that? You talking about what side of town you from and what city or what metro city you repping or what's your zip code if you ain't really getting involved. I mean, at the end of the day, we claiming some area that don't really belong to us. Because at the end, while we sitting up here talking about zone 6, zone 1, zone 3, and all of that, there's some investors sitting back and looking at the areas and waiting to buy it. Or they already purchased some land, but they waiting for some time to take over because they going through the development of projects. They going through the development of projects, trying to organize the areas and trying to figure out what buildings they want to put there and what else is going to go there, etc. So these are the things that we're not really paying attention to, but we're caught up on a rapper that tells you that you're not from Atlanta or you're not from this area because this area is not Atlanta, and this person ain't been around long enough to even know the history. Because those areas that she's talking about at once upon a time was part of the city, but broke off from the city and became its own city. Those counties that she's talking about, they are in the city. They, you know what I'm saying? That city is part of those counties. Okay? So I'm on the subject about Atlanta because Dinah Watts did a lot of significant work within the Atlanta area, particularly in Covington, Georgia, especially. She has really made sure that she provided some resources for the children as much as possible with little to no help, not even from the city, not even from the mayor, or not even from the governor at that. So that's putting in real work. So women like her get the commemoration. Women like her get the salute, and they get the respect because she ran an orphanage for 40 years. For 40 years, she ran the orphanage. And she got little to no help to do so. I just wanted to put that out there. But also, I want to show you guys something real quick. So this is an old book. All right, so right here, this is the old book that talks about the morality amongst Negroes in cities. Okay, so this is the Atlanta University publication, and this book came out on May the 26th through the 20. No, it will. Okay, it says proceedings of the conference, investigation of city problems, Atlanta University, from May 26th through the 27th of 1896, and at that time it was 25 cents. All right. Okay, so this came from Atlanta University, which is now Clark Atlanta, okay? Because Clark and Atlanta University combined together to make one college. All right, so it can be found on Google. Just type in the morality amongst Negroes in the city, and it would go into the detail about the poverty at that time period during the late 1890s and the early 1900s, how the city of Atlanta was during that time period, all of that. Yes. So let me show you guys again. Okay. Let's see. Are you talking about the lady rapper who was saying that some places in Atlanta are not? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, Amaretta. So don't get me wrong. She's a very talented rapper. Don't get me wrong. I admire her, but at the end of the day, does that really matter? Does it really matter when there is gentrification going on? Does it really matter when there is major homeless crisis in the community? No, those things are not really significant, and it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, the city is being affected all over. The surrounding city is being affected. Okay. So going back to what I'm saying, we can sit here holler out zone 1, zone 3, zone 4, zone 6, or whatever, but that does not make a significant change to our community. It doesn't do anything for us. They sit here and argue about what is Atlanta, what's not Atlanta. That doesn't do anything for us collectively. And then you got people who was migrating to Atlanta, all right, and that has done a lot of work in the city. That's contribute a lot in the city to make the city what it is. You have a lot of people that have done it, especially black people. Peace, brother Henry. How you doing? Peace, brother John. How you doing? How you doing, John? How you doing? All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with the service. Um, so yeah, that's all I have to say for today. I hope you guys enjoy the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed the information. That's all I could really come up with regard to the topic and the individual. So again, this is Women History Month, and it's all about celebrating the women who have done significant work throughout the world, not just in America, but throughout the world, and those who have made an impact, whether it be good or bad, in various fields. So yes, we have to give those commemoration. We have to give honor and respect to those women. All right. So with that being said, I want you guys to have a good day, and I want you all to be safe. And I will connect with you all later. So hopefully I can do another video Tuesday, and we can go from there. All right. So I'll give you heads up. I'll give you guys heads up on who's the next topic, or who's the next person that I'm going to be talking about on the next topic. So just stay tuned on that. So stay focused. Yeah, stay focused. Anyways, I'm about to go ahead and just chill out and just get my relaxation on, because I got a lot to do. And until next time, may peace and power and elevation be to all of you. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off to say deuces. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share my channel. Check out my video content. And also shout out to brother Easy Herbs. Thank you for having me on your platform, brother. Check out Easy Herbs on his YouTube. He's a brother from UK, the United Kingdom. We had a great discussion about consciousness. So make sure you guys check it out when you get a chance to. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and share my channels. And you can have a discussion about them. So until then, good day.